At 0345 hours, somewhere deep in the Sea of Japan, two Russian submarines glide through black waters. Silent, hidden. Only the faintest electric hum betrays their presence. Inside, the crew of the Oscar-II class submarine Omsk is locked in tense focus. On their screens, an American naval formation. Silhouettes of destroyers, cruisers, and they think an aircraft carrier. Target markers blink. Orders come down. Prepare torpedo tubes. The captain narrows his eyes. He knows this is a big moment. Maybe too big. But once you're here, there's no turning back. In the Combat Information Center of the USS Curtis Wilbur, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the atmosphere is just as tense, but for a different reason. They're running standard patrol. Sonar techs listen to the sea, but the ocean's been quiet. Too quiet. Picking up faint contacts, a voice crackles. At 0349, the Russian captain gives the order. Two 650mm Type 65 torpedoes, the giants of the Russian fleet, slip into the water. These monsters aren't regular fish. They're designed to take out carriers, with a warhead strong enough to break a ship in half. On the American side, alarms light up. Torpedo in the water bearing 215. The crew snaps into motion. Engines roar. Sonar techs shout out coordinates, and the destroyer starts a hard turn to port. But here's the twist. The Russians have misidentified their target. There's no carrier here, just supply ships and destroyers. Someone made a fatal error. And now, both sides are on the brink of an international disaster. As the torpedoes close in, U.S. sailors scramble. But do they have the tools and the time to survive? The Sea of Japan isn't just any patch of water. It's one of the world's most tightly watched regions. Russians, Americans, Japanese, and South Korean ships cross paths here all the time, like sharks circling the same pool. On the Russian side, the Oscar-II class submarine Omsk leads the charge. It's a beast, 154 meters long, packed with 24 P-700 Granit missiles and torpedo tubes capable of firing massive Type 65 torpedoes. Designed during the Cold War, it was built to take down U.S. carrier groups in one blow. Nearby, a Yasen-class submarine, Russia's newer pride, lurks as backup. The Yasen is sleek, modern, and packed with caliber cruise missiles. Its sensors are more advanced, but the catch is, it relies on the Oscar's old-school muscle to do the heavy lifting. On the U.S. side, the USS Curtis Wilbur is one of the Navy's most advanced destroyers. Part of the Arleigh Burke class, it carries the Aegis combat system, 96 vertical launch cells, SM-2 and SM-6 missiles, Sea-Whiz close-in weapon system, and Mark 46 torpedoes for anti-submarine warfare. But it's not alone. Nearby, a USNS supply ship plods through the waves, loaded with fuel and cargo. It's a sitting duck, unarmed and vulnerable. And here's the kicker. This is the ship that the Russians think is a carrier, thanks to bad sonar returns and rushed intel. The Americans now face a deadly underwater threat. Inside the Omsk, tension is thick. The Oscar-II class submarine is no lightweight. Nicknamed Carrier Killer, it was built to destroy entire U.S. Navy strike groups. The Americans have one shot to react. But what do they have on board to stop the unstoppable? Let's step onto the USS Curtis Wilbur. Aboard the USS Curtis Wilbur, chaos meets control. As the torpedo alarms echo, sailors snap into action. They're not helpless. This destroyer is packed with some of the most advanced systems afloat. First up, the Aegis combat system. Think of it as the ship's brain. It connects radar, missiles, guns, and sensors into one massive web. When a threat pops up, Aegis tracks it, calculates intercepts, and launches a response, all in seconds. For defense against missiles, there's SM-2 and SM-6 surface-to-air missiles. These aren't for torpedoes, but if the Oscar had launched a Granit missile, these would be the first line of defense. Fast, agile, and deadly. But right now, it's an underwater threat that matters. That's where the AN/SQS-53 sonar system comes in. Mounted under the hull, it sends sound waves through the water, listening for the echoes of submarines or torpedoes. Paired with the AN/SQR-19 towed sonar array, a long cable trailing behind the ship, the crew can hear deep into the ocean, sometimes tens of kilometers away. Once a torpedo is detected, the destroyer's last line of defense is the Mk-46 lightweight torpedo. Fired from deck-mounted tubes or launched from helicopters, these torpedoes chase down submarines with active and passive homing. They're not huge, but they're fast, about 45 knots, and lethal against submerged threats. And if the threat gets even closer, enter the CIWS CIWS, or Close-In Weapons System. This beast fires 4,500 rounds per minute from a 20mm Gatling gun, creating a wall of lead designed to shred incoming missiles or small boats. It's the ship's "oh no" button when everything else has failed. But it's not just hardware. The USS Curtis Wilbur also has MH-60R Seahawk helicopters loaded with dipping sonar and more torpedoes. These choppers extend the ship's reach, hunting submarines far beyond the horizon. The U.S. crew is trained, drilled, and ready. But here's the problem. They weren't expecting this, and reacting to an unexpected underwater attack takes more than technology. It takes split-second decisions. As the torpedoes close in, a deadly realization hits the Russian side. They're targeting the wrong ships. Can they stop the attack in time? Or will the Americans have to strike back? Inside the Omsk Command Center, red lights glow. The torpedoes are in the water. Countdown's running, but something's off. A junior sonar officer notices strange echoes. The ship they targeted, it's smaller than expected. Where are the jet turbines? Where's the aircraft deck? A sinking feeling spreads through the Russian crew. On the Yasen-class sub, a second confirmation hits. The radar cross-section doesn't match a carrier. It's a supply ship, not worth a $900,000 torpedo, let alone starting a war. Inside the Russian command chain, chaos erupts. The captain barks for immediate contact with the Omsk. Radio signals scramble through the depths. Torpedoes in the water can sometimes be disabled via acoustic command if you're fast. But seconds matter. Aboard the Omsk, a young officer shouts, "We have mis-ID!" The captain's face drains of color. "Aboard command, now!" At the same moment, aboard the Curtis Wilbur, sailors brace. The sonar officer's voice is sharp. "Two fast contacts, 1,000 yards in closing." The commander grits his teeth. "Brace for impact!" Back on the Russian side, the aboard command races through the water in a series of coded pings. The torpedo's onboard processors listen, verify, and miraculously respond. The propulsion system shuts down. The torpedoes slow, drift, and sink harmlessly to the bottom. The Americans, unaware of the sudden shutdown, are seconds from deploying countermeasures. Then, silence. No impact. No explosion. Just a confused crew staring at sonar screens that suddenly go blank. The Americans are left wondering, was this an accident or start of something bigger? And now, it's their move. On the USS Curtis Wilbur, the air is thick with adrenaline. Sailors grip consoles, officers shout coordinates, and damage control teams stand ready. Even though the torpedoes never hit, the crew doesn't know why. To them, it's still an active attack. "Deploy countermeasures," the commander orders. Almost instantly, the ship launches Nixie-towed decoys, long cables trailing behind that emit false acoustic signals, meant to lure the torpedoes away. The ship also prepares anti-submarine rockets, or ASROC, ready to drop lightweight torpedoes into the waters at high speed. Above, an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter spins up. Within minutes, it's airborne, skimming over the dark sea, dipping its sonar into the water to hunt for the attackers. The helicopter crew listens closely. searching for the telltale noises of propellers or hull vibrations. The USS Curtis Wilbur's Aegis system processes all the data at once: sonar readings, radar sweeps, helicopter feeds. It tries to form a picture of what just happened. One thing is clear: there were submarines out there, somewhere, multiple, and they got close. Meanwhile, the American command centers on land are alerted. Satellites shift, long-range patrol planes take off, and destroyers in nearby waters are warned. A small attack on a supply ship or destroyer could ignite a global crisis, and nobody's taking chances. Back underwater, the Russian submarines go silent. No engine noise, no periscope raises, no radio pings. It's called going to the mats, lying low on the seafloor, hoping to disappear. But the Americans are sweeping wide, using sonar at various depths, trying to track every possible lead. What makes this even riskier? The Americans still don't know that this was a mistake. From their perspective, it's an unprovoked attack. And that puts every ship, every submarine and plane in the region on edge. Will the Russians surface and admit their error? Or will they risk a dangerous underwater standoff? And what can the Americans do to prevent this from spiraling into war? Deep below in the Oscar-II's control room, the Russian captain faces a brutal decision: surface and risk public shame, or stay hidden and risk war. He knows one thing: silence will only make things worse. Carefully, the crew powers up a low-frequency communication buoy, a device that floats near the surface and can send encrypted messages without revealing the sub's exact position. A coded signal is sent: ceasefire, misidentification, no hostility intended. It's a desperate attempt to de-escalate. On the USS Curtis Wilbur, the commander receives the message through the fleet network. Skepticism fills the room. Could be a trick, one officer warns. But the higher-ups make the call: hold fire, stand by, observe. At the same time, U.S. surveillance planes spot a subtle sign. The Russian subs are moving away. Slow, deliberate, heading north, not towards U.S. ships, but back to their own waters. It's a signal the Americans can read: stand down. Rather than chase, the U.S. ships hold position. The MH-60R helicopter shadows the subs at a distance, making sure no surprises happen. Tensions remain razor sharp, but neither side wants the headlines: first shots fired at sea. Diplomatic channels light up. Backdoor talks between naval attachés in Moscow and Washington buzz with activity. An international incident has been narrowly avoided, not because of weapons, but because someone had the guts to slow down and think. What can we actually learn from this near disaster? Why do modern navies still risk so much in crowded seas? Well, let's break it down. This near miss shows one hard truth: even with the world's best technology, human error can bring nations to the edge of disaster. Submarines rely on sonar, radar, satellite data, but all of it can fail under pressure. Waves, weather, misread signals. It only takes one small mistake. And at sea, where weapons travel faster than decisions, there's almost no room for correction. Modern navies train endlessly for these moments, not just to fight, but to avoid fighting. From sonar operators to admirals, they're drilled in split-second judgment, diplomacy under pressure, and technical mastery. The incident also reveals the brutal reality of underwater warfare: invisible, silent, and one heartbeat away from catastrophe. And sometimes, the smartest move isn't pulling the trigger, it's pulling back. But here's the big question for you. If you were in command that night, would you have risked surfacing or stayed hidden? So, if you were the Russian captain, would you have surfaced and risked exposure? or stayed deep, hoping nobody found you? And on the US side, would you have held fire? Or would you have struck back, just to be sure? Tell us in the comments below. I'm curious what you guys think. And hey, if you want to go a step further and support our channel directly, join the fleet. You get loyalty badges, priority responses, and help us bring more true maritime stories to the surface. Click join on our channel page and get on board. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Stay sharp out there. The oceans are watching, and so are we. See you next time.